The card slipped from my hands, but I caught it. Excursion to a premier nursing home. It read, the glossy paper gleaming like a cruel joke. My 60th birthday, and this was their gift. Tom's smirk curled, smug and sharp, while Kate's laugh sliced the air. The cake sat untouched, candles burned low. I'd expected warmth, family love. Instead, they mocked me. My fingers tightened around my wristwatch, the tick loud in my ears. They thought they'd won, but I wasn't done. Not yet. They'd regret this. I swore it. I never thought my own son could humiliate me like this. The living room glowed with the soft flicker of birthday candles, their wax pooling on the untouched cake. I'd set the table with care, striped tablecloth, my best plates, a spread of roast chicken and mashed potatoes. It was my 60th, a milestone I'd hoped to share with family. Tom and Kate stood across from me, their grins too wide, too sharp. "Open it, Mom," Tom said, handing me a card. His voice had an edge, like he was daring me. The card was heavy, its glossy surface catching the light. Excursion to a premier nursing home. It proclaimed in bold, cheerful letters, like an ad for a tropical cruise. My breath caught. I looked up, expecting a laugh, a just kidding. But Kate's eyes glinted with something mean. "You'll love it there, Alice," she said, her tone dripping with mock sweetness. "They've got bingo and all-you-can-eat Jell-O." I gripped the card, its edges biting into my palm. "What is this?" My voice was low, steady, but inside my heart pounded. Tom chuckled, leaning back in his chair. "Come on, Mom, it's a joke. You're always so serious." A joke. I'd spent years giving them everything. Money for Tom's college, late nights working to keep us afloat, even my savings for their wedding. And this was their thanks? "Explain," I said, my eyes locking on Kate. She shrugged, tossing her hair. "It's just a card, Alice. Don't make a scene." But her smile said she knew exactly what she was doing. I felt the room shrink, the air thick with their smugness. My fingers twitched around the fork on the table, its cold metal grounding me. "You think this is funny?" I asked, my voice rising. "Mocking me in my own home?" Tom's laugh faltered, but Kate didn't flinch. "You're not getting any younger," she said, her words ablade. "And this house? It's way too big for one person." There it was, the hint of greed, the real reason behind their joke. They wanted my home, my life, boxed up and shipped off so they could cash in. "Get out," I said, standing. My chair scraped the floor, loud in the sudden silence. Tom blinked, surprised, but Kate just smirked. "Alice, relax. Get out." I pointed to the door, my arm steady despite the tremor in my chest. They grabbed their coats, muttering, but I didn't care. The door slammed behind them, the sound echoing like a gunshot. I stood alone, the card crumpled in my fist. The clock on my wrist ticked, its cracked face glinting in the dim light. I sank into a chair, staring at the cake, the candles long burned out. My anger simmered, hardening into something colder, sharper. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. The clock ticked, relentless, as I sat at the table. The living room was dark now, the cake a sad lump in the center. My fingers traced the crumpled card, its words burned into my mind. How had it come to this? I leaned back, closing my eyes, and the past rushed in like a flood. I saw myself at 35, hunched over a calculator in a gray office, the hum of fluorescent lights my only company. Tom was in high school then, dreaming of college. I'd worked double shifts, my hands cramped from typing, to pay his tuition. "You're the best, Mom," he'd said, hugging me after his graduation. His smile had been worth every sleepless night. But that boy was gone. Another memory, Tom's wedding. I'd given them my savings for the down payment on their house, my dreams of a trip to Paris tucked away in a drawer. Kate had stood there, radiant in white, but her eyes were cold when she looked at me. "You're so traditional, Alice," she'd said, her voice sharp, like I was a relic she'd rather not touch. I'd smiled, ignoring the sting, because Tom was happy. That was enough, wasn't it? I opened my eyes, my gaze falling on the coffee cup, cold and untouched. The clock ticked louder, or maybe it was just my pulse. I reached for the drawer, pulling out my old journal. Its pages were yellowed, the ink faded but still legible. I flipped through, my heart twisting. "See the Louvre," one entry read. Paint again. Dreams I'd buried for Tom for his future. And what had he done? He'd stood in my home, laughing, handing me that card like it was nothing. Another flash. Last year, Tom bragging about his promotion. Big things coming, Mom, he'd said. But his eyes kept drifting to my house, its wide windows, its quiet yard. Kate had chimed in, her voice syrupy. This place is too much for you, Alice. Ever think of downsizing? I'd brushed it off, but now it clicked. They didn't just want me gone, they wanted everything I had. My fingers tightened on the journal, the paper crinkling. I'd given them my life, my youth, my dreams, and they'd spat on it. Kate's sneer, Tom's greedy glance. They thought I was weak, a tired old woman they could push aside. They were wrong. I flipped to a blank page, my pen hovering. The clock ticked steady, like a heartbeat. I wasn't done living. Not yet. I whispered it to the empty room. I'm not finished. I woke clutching the journal, my neck stiff from sleeping at the table. The house was quiet, the dawn light creeping through the curtains. My eyes burned, but my mind was clear. Tom and Kate thought they could break me, shove me into some sterile room to rot. They were wrong. I wouldn't let them win. I stood, the parquet floor creaking under my feet. The house felt alive, every corner holding memories and power. This was my home, my strength. I moved to the study, my steps purposeful. The safe clicked open, revealing stacks of documents. Bank statements, property deeds, my life in ink and paper. I spread them on the desk, my fingers tracing numbers. I had more than they thought, savings, investments, leverage. As I flipped through the pages, Tom's voice echoed in my mind. Big promotion, Mom, he'd bragged last month, his chest puffed out. I'm untouchable. But no one was untouchable. Kate too, with her business plan she'd gushed about at dinner, all buzzwords and ambition. They thought they were clever, climbing their ladders, eyeing my house like a prize. I'd find their weaknesses. I always did. I grabbed my phone, its cracked screen catching the light. My contacts list was short but useful. Old colleagues, a lawyer, a friend who knew too much about everyone. I paused, thinking of John, a retired accountant who'd owed me a favor for years. He'd know where to start. My thumb hovered over his name, then pressed. The journal lay open beside me. Its blank page a challenge. I picked up a pen, my hand steady. They think I'm weak, I wrote. They're wrong. The words felt like a vow, carved into the paper. I set the pen down, my gaze falling on the house key, its brass dull but heavy. I placed it on the desk, a line drawn between my past and what came next. The phone rang once, twice. John picked up, his voice groggy but warm. Alice? You okay? I leaned forward, my voice low, certain. John, I need your help. The clock on the wall ticked, steady, counting down to something new. The kitchen table was scarred, its wood worn from years of use, but it held my laptop steady. The screen flickered to life, casting a pale glow across the room. A cold coffee mug sat beside me, its handle chipped. I opened a browser, my fingers moving with purpose. Tom's social media was first. His profile picture showed him in a suit, grinning like he owned the world. His latest post bragged about a big win at work, a promotion he was this close to locking down. I snorted. He always thought he was untouchable. I scrolled through his feed, noting the comments. Colleagues tagged him, but one stood out. Better fix that report, man. My pulse quickened. A crack in his armor. I grabbed my phone and dialed John, the accountant friend I'd called last night. The line crackled. Then his voice came through, gruff but warm. Alice? What's up? Tom, I said, keeping my tone even. He's been sloppy at work. Hasn't he? John chuckled, low and knowing. Oh yeah. His last report was a mess. Numbers all over the place. His boss Linda tore into him. He's on thin ice. I jotted it down in my notebook, the pen scratching against the paper. Tom's name went at the top, underlined twice. Mistake-prone. Vulnerable. Next, Kate. Her profile was a curated dream, photos of fabric swatches, mood boards, and captions about her upcoming design empire. But the comments told another story. One user marked as a supplier wrote, "Still waiting on payment, Kate." Another hinted at delayed shipments. Her business was a house of cards, propped up by loans and lies. I wrote her name below Tom's, circling it. financially stretched. Desperate. The clock on the wall ticked, its rhythm steady, urging me on. I leaned back, my mind racing. Kate's mockery from that night, the way she'd sneered. "This house is too big for you, Alice," burned in my chest. She thought my life was a relic, something she could sweep aside for her shiny dreams. Tom, too, with his greedy glances at my home. They'd underestimated me, but I was learning their game. I flipped the notebook shut, the ink smudged from my grip. The kitchen was quiet, save for the clock's pulse. I stood and walked to the window, the glass cool against my palm. Outside, the street was still, but inside me something stirred, sharp, alive, like the first spark of a fire. I glanced at the clock again, its hands pointing to a new hour. "Time to start," I whispered, my voice steady, certain. The cafe smelled of burnt coffee and cinnamon, its air thick with chatter. I sat by the window, my phone warm in my hand, the screen open to an email draft. Across the street, Tom's office loomed, its glass doors reflecting the gray sky. The report John had sent me, a scanned copy of Tom's botched financials riddled with errors, sat attached, ready to go. I'd used a burner account, untraceable. The subject line read, "Concerns about recent performance." Simple, direct, lethal. My thumb hovered over send. My heart thudded, but my hands were steady. I thought of Tom that night, his smirk as he handed me the card, his laugh when Kate said, "Bingo's your speed, Alice." He'd ignored every warning I'd given him about work, brushing off my advice as old school. Now he'd pay. I pressed send. The email vanished, a silent arrow loosed. I sipped my coffee, bitter and cold, and watched The Office. Minutes later, Tom emerged, his tie loose, his face twisted in a scowl. He checked his phone, then shoved it into his pocket, shoulders hunched. I smiled, small and sharp. "Got you." The cafe clock ticked, its hands creeping forward. I opened my phone again, pulling up Tom's social media. A new post fresh from an hour ago. "Rough day, but I'll bounce back." Flex biceps, the emoji was a lie. I could feel his panic through the screen. I leaned back, the vinyl chair creaking. Victory tasted sweet, but it wasn't enough. Tom's stumble was just the start. I thought of him years ago, a boy who'd promised to make me proud. His hugs tight and warm. But that boy had grown into a man who saw me as an obstacle, a stepping stone to his greed. My fingers tightened around my cup, the ceramic cool against my skin. The cafe door jingled as I left, the street air sharp. At home, I dropped my keys on the counter, the sound loud in the quiet. A letter sat by the door, its envelope crisp, Kate's handwriting scrawled across it. "We need to talk," it read. I turned it over, my lips curling. They had no idea what was coming. I tucked the letter into my pocket, its weight like a secret I'd already won. The doorbell rang, sharp and insistent. I opened the door and Tom and Kate stormed in, their faces a mix of anger and entitlement. The living room felt smaller with them in it, the faded couch and dim lamp no match for their energy. Kate's heels clicked on the hardwood, her lips twisted in a scowl. Tom stood behind her, arms crossed, his jaw tight. The letter I'd found was still in my pocket, but I didn't mention it. Let them think they had the upper hand. "Alice, you're blowing this way out of proportion," Kate snapped, not bothering to sit. "That card was a joke. You can't seriously be this mad." Her voice was all edges, like she was scolding a child. I stood by the table, my hands steady, my face calm. Inside, fury simmered, but I held it like a coiled spring. "A joke," I said, my tone flat. "You mocked me in my own home. And now you're here for what? An apology?" Tom shifted, his eyes darting to the floor. "Look, Mom, we're sorry, okay? But we need your help. Things are tight." His voice was softer, but I caught the greed beneath it, the same glint I'd seen when he'd eyed my house. Kate cut in, her words sharp. "This place is too much for you, Alice. You're old, you don't need all this space. Sell it, help us out. It's the least you can do." The least. After everything I'd given them, years, money, my dreams, they stood here demanding more. I laughed low and cold. "I'm not your ATM anymore. You want money? Earn it." The words felt good, like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. Kate's face flushed, her eyes narrowing. "You're being selfish," she hissed. "We're family. Family doesn't betray." I shot back, stepping closer. "Get out. Both of you." My voice was steel, unyielding. Tom opened his mouth, but I pointed to the door. They left, Kate muttering, Tom silent. The door slammed shut, the sound final, like a lock clicking into place. I sank into a chair, the clock ticking in the quiet. Kate's voice echoed in my mind, her smug pitch as she'd bragged about her business at dinner months ago. Investors are lining up, she'd said, but I knew better now. Her creditors were circling, and I could pull the thread to unravel her. I grabbed my phone, its black case cool in my hand. I scrolled to a number, a contact John had given me, someone tied to Kate's loans. My finger hovered over the call button, my lips curling. She'll regret this, I whispered and pressed dial. The phone felt like a weapon in my hand, its scratched surface cool against my palm. I sat at the desk in my study, the wooden table cluttered with papers, bank statements, old letters, the ghosts of my past. The clock on the wall ticked, steady and unyielding, as I dialed the number John had given me. A creditor, someone tied to Kate's crumbling empire. The line clicked, and a man's voice answered, clipped and professional. Summit Financial. How can I help? I leaned forward, my voice soft, concerned. I'm a friend of Kate Green's. I'm worried about her situation. She hasn't mentioned any stable income lately. A pause, then a grunt of interest. I fed him just enough. Vague hints of Kate's unpaid suppliers, her shaky business posts online. I'd hate for you to be caught off guard. I added, sweet as pie. He thanked me, his tone sharper now, suspicious. I hung up, my lips curling. One domino down. The clock's tick filled the silence. I thought of Kate, her smug grin as she called my house too big that night, her voice dripping with disdain. She thought she could bury me in a nursing home and take what was mine. Not anymore. I grabbed my coat and drove to my lawyer's office, the city blurring past. The office was sleek, glass desk, faint coffee scent, papers stacked neat as a deck of cards. My lawyer, Susan, raised an eyebrow as I Saturday. You sure about this, Alice? Never been surer, I said, sliding the will across the desk. Cut Tom out. Completely. Susan nodded, no questions asked. I signed the new document, the pen's ink dark and final, like a blade carving away the past. Each stroke was a reclaiming, my home, my life, my power. Tom had expected to inherit everything, his greedy eyes on my property long before that cruel card. Now he'd get nothing. I drove home, the weight of the signed will in my bag like a trophy. The house was quiet, the study dim as I sank into my chair. Kate's business would falter soon, I could feel it. Tom's inheritance was gone. The clock ticked louder, or maybe it was my pulse. I glanced at my phone, 2 missed calls from Tom. My finger hovered over the screen, but I didn't call back. He was rattled, sensing the ground shift beneath him. Good. I leaned back, the chair creaking. He was starting to feel it, and I wasn't done yet. I spotted Tom through the cafe window, slumped in a corner booth. His tie loose and face drawn. Perfect timing. I pushed the door open, the bell jingling, and walked over, my steps light, casual. Tom, I said, feigning surprise. Didn't expect to see you here. The cafe smelled of espresso and warm bread. Its wooden tables scratched from years of use. I slid into the seat across from him, my coffee cup steaming, a prop in my performance. He barely looked up, stirring his drink with a spoon. Rough day, Mom, he muttered. They passed me over for the promotion. Some jerk ratted out my report. His voice was heavy, tinged with self-pity. I tilted my head, my expression all sympathy, but inside I was electric. The email I'd sent his boss had hit its mark, and here was the proof. Tom deflated, his confidence cracked. That's awful, I said, my tone soft, practiced. But, maybe you should have listened to advice now and then. People notice when you cut corners. His eyes flicked up, confused, but he didn't catch the barb. I sipped my coffee, the bitter taste grounding me. Years ago, he'd brushed off my suggestions about his work, calling me out of touch. Now his arrogance was his undoing, and I'd pulled the string. It's not fair, he said, his knuckles white around his cup. Everyone's out to get me. I nodded, murmuring something vague, but my mind was elsewhere. His slumped shoulders, the new lines on his face, they were my work, my justice. The clock above the counter ticked, its hand steady, counting down his fall. I thought of that night, his smirk as he handed me the card, His laugh when Kate mocked me. This was only the beginning. I stood patting his arm. You'll figure it out, Tom. He mumbled a thanks, oblivious to my smile. Outside, the air was crisp, the street buzzing. My phone vibrated. A text from my friend Linda. Kate's freaking out. Loan got pulled. She's blaming Tom. I stopped, my breath catching. The creditor had moved faster than I'd expected. I whispered to the empty street. Your turn's coming, Kate. My voice low, sharp, alive. I sat on a park bench, the air cool, leaves rustling underfoot. The letter I'd written to Kate lay sealed in my bag, its words sharp and deliberate. You thought you could mock her without consequences? Think again. No signature, just enough to rattle her. I'd mailed it yesterday, a dart aimed at her pride. My phone glowed as I opened Linda's text again, her words painting a picture. Kate frantic, yelling at Tom, her business loan gone, her dreams crumbling. I smiled, small and cold. I scrolled to Kate's social media, her latest post a desperate act of bravado. Challenges are just opportunities. Stay tuned. The emoji was a mask, her panic bleeding through the words. I knew her type, always pretending, always performing. She'd called me useless once, her voice sharp at a family dinner, dismissing my life as if it were dust. Now her empire was the one falling apart, and I'd lit the match. The park was quiet, the bench hard against my back. My wristwatch ticked, its cracked face catching the sunlight. I thought of Kate's sneer, her certainty that I'd fade away, leaving my house for her to claim. Every sacrifice I'd made, nights working, dreams deferred, had been for them, and she'd spat on it. This wasn't just revenge, it was justice, clean and sharp, like the ink in my letter. Linda called as I stood, her voice low, excited. Kate's a mess, Alice. She's screaming at suppliers, blaming Tom for everything. It's bad. I nodded, though she couldn't see. Thanks for the update, I said, my tone calm, but inside I was soaring. Kate's world was unraveling thread by thread, and I held the scissors. I walked home, the park fading behind me, my steps sure. The house was still as I entered, the air heavy with purpose. On the kitchen table sat the new will, its pages crisp, Tom's name erased. I ran my fingers over it, the paper cool, final. Kate's panic, Tom's failure. They were steps, but not the end. I sat staring at the document, my mind racing. The clock ticked, steady, unyielding. One last step, I thought, my voice a whisper in the quiet room. The doorbell buzzed, sharp and urgent, cutting through the quiet of my living room. I opened the door and Tom and Kate barged in, their faces pale, eyes wild. The room felt smaller with them in it, the worn carpet and dim lamp no match for their desperation. Tom's shirt was crumpled, his eyes red-rimmed. Kate's hands twitched, her usual poise gone. I stood by the table, arms crossed, my face a mask of calm. Inside, my heart thrummed with cold satisfaction. Mom, please, Tom started, his voice breaking. We just talked to Susan. You gave everything to charity? Everything. He stepped closer, hands outstretched like he could grab back what he'd lost. Kate nodded, her lips trembling. We didn't mean it, Alice. The card, it was stupid, a mistake. We're sorry. I tilted my head, letting their words hang in the air. Sorry. The word was hollow, a pebble tossed into a chasm. I saw that night again, the glossy card, their smug laughs, Kate's voice slicing through me. Bingo's your speed, Alice. I'd given them my life, college tuition, wedding funds, my dreams, and they'd mocked me, plotting to take my home. Now they stood here begging, as if tears could erase betrayal. You're sorry, I said, my voice low, steady. But you meant every word that night. You wanted me gone, my house sold, my life packed away. You thought I was weak. Tom flinched, but Kate tried to interrupt, her voice shrill. We were joking. You can't do this to us. I already did. I cut in, stepping forward. You're not my family anymore. The words landed like stones, heavy and final. Tom's face crumpled, a sob escaping. Kate froze, her eyes wide, searching for a crack in my resolve. She found none. I pointed to the door, my arm steady. Go. They stumbled out, Tom muttering apologies, Kate silent, her face a mask of shock. The door slammed shut, the sound echoing like a judge's gavel. I stood alone, the clock on my wrist ticking, its cracked face glinting in the lamplight. On the table lay the card, its cheerful letters a cruel reminder. I touched it, my fingers steady, then turned away. My gaze fell on the suitcase in the corner, packed and ready. I picked it up, its weight light in my hand. Time to move forward. I thought, my steps firm, the future calling. I slung the suitcase into the trunk and hit the road, the highway stretching toward the California coast. The air was sharp with salt as I reached the beach town, its streets lined with bungalows and swaying palms. I'd rented a small place, nothing fancy but mine. For the first time in years, I was living for me. I signed up for a painting class at a local studio, the kind I'd dreamed of as a girl, before Tom's needs swallowed my ambitions. The studio smelled of turpentine and canvas, its walls splashed with color. I dipped my brush into red, stroking it across the canvas, painting a sunset that bled into the sea. The beach became my routine, early walks, the sand warm under my feet, waves crashing in a steady rhythm. I met people, artists and retirees, their laughter easy, their stories light. One woman, Clara, became a friend. Over coffee, she shared gossip from back home. Kate sold their car, she said, her eyes wide. She and Tom are drowning in debt, fighting nonstop. I nodded, stirring my drink, the spoon clinking against the mug. Their chaos felt distant, like a storm I'd already weathered. I didn't care anymore. I thought of the years I'd given them, nights working overtime, my Paris fund drained for their house. I'd buried my dreams to lift them up, and they'd repaid me with that card, their smirks, their greed. Now, standing on the beach, the wind tugging at my hair, I felt free. My brush moved faster in class, the sunset on my canvas glowing alive. "That's stunning, Alice," Clara said, peering over my shoulder. I smiled, the praise warming me like the sun. Back at my place, a letter waited, Tom's handwriting scrawled across the envelope. I turned it over, my thumb brushing the seal. Another plea, no doubt, like the one I'd ignored last week. I walked to the kitchen, dropping it into a drawer with the others unopened. The clock on the wall ticked, its hands steady, unhurried. He doesn't matter anymore, I thought, my voice soft in the quiet house, the ocean's hum faint through the window. I stood on the balcony of my new home, the California air cool against my skin. The wooden floor creaked under my feet, the railing smooth from years of salt and wind. In my hand was Tom's latest letter, its paper creased, his words spilling out in desperate ink. "Give me one more chance, Mom. Please." I read it once, then set it in the rusted metal bowl on the table. A match flared, its flame sharp in the dusk. I touched it to the paper, watching the edges curl, blacken, then dissolve into ash. The wind carried the flakes away, scattering them over the sea. The journey flickered through my mind like a reel. The card that night, its glossy cruelty, Tom's smirk, Kate's laugh. I'd been their foundation, pouring my life into theirs, only to be mocked, dismissed, pushed toward a nursing home so they could claim my home. But I'd fought back, sharp and silent, unraveling their world. Tom's lost promotion, Kate's failed business, the will that left them nothing. It wasn't just revenge. It was reclamation. A fire that burned away their hold on me and lit my way here. The clock on the balcony ticked, its sound soft, no longer a pressure but a companion. I didn't need to rush anymore. The sunset stretched across the horizon, pink and gold, its colors bleeding into the waves. I thought of my painting in the studio, the canvas alive with my vision, and the friends who'd filled my days with warmth. This was my life now, built from the ashes of their betrayal. I leaned on the railing, the bowl empty, its rust catching the last light. This is my time, I thought, my voice a whisper against the ocean's hum. The horizon glowed, endless, and I stood taller, rooted in the moment, the future mine to shape. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching.